sugya, and sometimes you forget the fact you're fasting. So we're going to try to pull that off here. Okay, so one note about the calendar before we begin. Okay, as you guys know, that the calendar used to be arranged by Beit Din with testimony and the like. And in the 400s, a man named Hillel, not the famous Hillel of Hillel and Shammai fame, a different Hillel made a fixed calendar, which we keep today. And it works that every 19 years, if you do 7 leap months, right, the solar and lunar calendar are basically a 10. Okay, great. But there are also certain arrangements about what will happen, what will not happen in this fixed calendar. So, for example, Rosh Hashanah, believe it or not, can only fall out 4 of the 7 days of the week. Okay, you learned that in high school? Lo Adu Rosh. Rosh Hashanah is never Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. Okay, now I'm a little upset because when I was in elementary school, they taught me that, but they never taught me why, and I think the why is really interesting. Okay, so does anyone remember, I think I might have taught this, maybe you should know that, why Wednesday and Friday we don't want it to be Rosh Hashanah? You want to know what it has to do with? It does have to do with Shabbos, actually, and Yom Kippur, that is correct. Okay, here we go, guys. In Talmudic times, okay, let's take a step back. It's a big Jewish value to honor the deceased. And notice that, unlike in other traditions, we usually do the burial more quickly. Like, obviously, sometimes you wait for, like, Uncle Larry to fly in. But we don't have a sense that, oh, the body's going to lie there for a week, and then we'll do the burial. And we're so adamant about that in Talmudic times, believe it or not, guys, we would bury the deceased even on Yom Tov. If it was Yom Tov Sheni, we would do it ourselves, despite that it's Yom Tov Sheni. If it was Yom Tov Rishon, we would ask non-Jews to do the malach. But we would still hold the funeral. Can I get so foreign to us, right? You could have a funeral on the first day of Pesach, right? And just the non-Jews would actually bury the grave. Okay, so that is the time of the Gemara. But that, you might have already been able to imply by what I said, that means there are 2 days a year that they would not do burial. Or the 2 days a year, there are 2 kinds of days. If they did it on Yom Tov, Shabbos and Yom Kippur. Okay, we got that? So they would bury the deceased every day of the year except Shabbos and Yom Kippur. Now, think of a world without refrigeration, right? And you don't have the body sitting there decaying, right? So what would you like to do? Never have a 48-hour period when you can't bury the deceased. What is the best way to make sure there's no 48-hour period where you can't bury the deceased? What do you have to ensure happens? Ensure that Yom Kippur never falls out on Friday or Sunday. Right, no, everyone realizes if Yom Kippur falls on Shabbos, we're okay. If Yom Kippur falls on Shabbos, how long can you not bury the deceased? 24 hours, right? That's it. But if Yom Kippur's on Friday or Sunday, now you might have noticed, guys, just think about your lives. Anyone ever remember Yom Kippur on Friday? Oh, we end the Elah and then we go into Kabbalah Shabbos. You remember that ever happening? No, because it never happens. It cannot happen in our calendar. Okay, does anyone ever remember? I'm really singing Shal Shudas, I'm getting into it, anticipating the Elah, anticipating Kol Nidre, right? You remember that? No, because in our calendar, Yom Kippur can never fall out on Sunday. So you might have noticed I'm focused on Yom Kippur, so let's go back to Rosh Hashanah. Obviously, what day Yom Kippur is a function of what day Rosh Hashanah is. How many days later in the week is Yom Kippur going to be? But in a week, like if Rosh Hashanah is Monday, Yom Kippur will be? Wednesday, right? Because 1 and 8 will be the same, and 10 will be 2 days later. So now it all makes sense, almost, guys. Why can't Rosh Hashanah fall out on Friday?
Sunday.
Because then Yom Kippur will be Sunday. Can't have that. Why can't Rosh Hashanah fall out on Wednesday? Because then Yom Kippur will be Friday. Okay, guys, I'm not explaining, just to leave you a little intrigued. I'm not explaining why Rosh Hashanah can't be Sunday. Okay, that's a totally different factor. Okay, but now you guys know why Rosh Hashanah can't be Wednesday or Friday. It's out of dignity for the deceased, so there was never a 48-hour period where they couldn't bury it. Okay, next. Now let's go to Chodesh Adar. Now, I don't know if this was done on purpose or not. It might be a function of other things. But we, of course, have 2 birds. There's the 14th, which is celebrated outside of Yerushalayim in most cities, and the 15th, which is celebrated in Yerushalayim. Fine. Now, as we discovered this year, the 15th and Shabbat overlap. Okay, which of course raises the question, how do we deal with that overlap? Now, you might say, wait, what about if that happens in Chutz La'aretz? Well, guess what, guys? The 14th of Adar in our calendar does not overlap with Shabbat. It does not happen. But the 15th does. Okay, so that's why this year, those of us who don't live in Yerushalayim, we don't have very much tension. Why don't we have very much tension, guys? Because our Purim is Friday, and I admit Friday might not be the most convenient Purim in the world, but you can do all the mitzvahs on Friday. So if you're outside of Yerushalayim, there's nothing particularly exciting about this year. But if you are fortunate enough to live in the holy city of Jerusalem, right, then all of a sudden, wait, my Purim, your Purim, guys, overlaps with Shabbat. How does that affect it? Now, here's where things get very interesting. Because in theory, one of you could argue, let's say you didn't know anything about halacha. You could argue it should not, well, you didn't know what happens in this scenario. And you could argue nothing should be affected, guys. Couldn't you argue that? Okay, let's go number one. Mikvah Megillah. Can we do it on Shabbos? Yeah. What's wrong with reading from Psukim on Shabbos? Okay, great. So we do Mikvah Megillah. Sudat Purim. We eat pretty well on Shabbos. Why can't we have the Sudat Purim on Shabbos? Right? Now, I admit, you might tell me Matana Lav Yodim is tricky and Mishloach Manot, but again, I don't mean to downplay, but at worst, what are you violating in those two scenarios? The Rabbanan, right? Handling money is Issa Rabbanan. So I'm not saying we could just do away with Rabbanan, but just pointing out the clash between Shabbat and the various aspects of Purim is not obvious at all. Yet, what do we do today, guys? We have the famous Purim Shiur, the triple Purim, in that we move Mikvah Megillah from Shabbos to Friday. That's where you guys are going to be reading tonight and tomorrow morning. We moved the Suda from Shabbos to Sunday, right? The Suda actually takes place on the 16th. And now, what's left? I always find this kind of humorous. What's left for Purim proper? How do you actually express Purim on Shabbos? Yeah, by saying Al Nisim. So it's kind of funny, like all the mitzvahs of the day that give its character end up taking place either before or after. And you're kind of just left with Al Nisim as the expression of Purim on the 15th. So here's our question for the day here, guys. Why in the world can't we just keep Purim on Shabbos? Right? Just read the Megillah. Just have the Suda. They do not contradict Shabbat at all. Okay, anyone? No, what are you going to say, my cuz?
I have heard something about the Zilbermans having a Suda on Shabbos.
It could be. We'll get to that chumrah in a minute. Okay, but the basic halacha though is the Suda. By the way, I don't think Zilbermans does that to the exclusion of Sunday. I think they do it also on Shabbos. Okay, Raymond, do you want to say something before? Okay, anybody else? We're good? Yes, Ariel.
Was it because of the Gezerah?
We're getting it right now. Okay, where do you know that from?
I don't know.
What?
Like at school?
Yeah, England.
Yeah.
Whoa, English Jewish education making a comeback. Okay, excellent. All right, here we go, guys. So let us see if Ariel's right. You might have heard about this Gezerah, but I would also like to point out that the Gezerah is not the only game in town. There are other approaches as well. All right, we're good? Gavi Tarish, you okay even though it's its own? You gonna make it? Okay, excellent. Azio Moskowitz, how about you? Yeah, okay. Let's go to the Gemara Megillah. So the Gemara says, "Dekuli al Mamiya Megillah b'Shabbat lo Korean." Everyone agrees you don't read the Megillah on Shabbat. My Tama, this is very famous, guys. This is known as Gzeira Derabba. Okay, Shimmy, go tell your learned friends you know about Gzeira Derabba. Okay, including Amy. Okay, he's not here, so you'll have to tell him. Okay, Amarabba. Everyone is obligated, but no one knows how to do it. It's tricky, right? So as was said, we're afraid you're going to carry. You're a little bit of a panic on Purim morning. I'm going to read the Megillah correctly, and you carry to check with an expert. Notice. The Gzeira Derabba has three manifestations. Right? Remember, guys, when Rosh Hashanah overlaps with Shabbat, we don't blow shofar. I guess we could all be honest about it. Many of us like those Rosh Hashanah days because davening shorter, right? So, and we don't take lulav on Shabbat, right? So those days we go to shul without the lulav. Now, this is famous. Don't see, guys, does this Gzeira strike you as very convincing or a little bit problematic? Gzeira Derabba. Yeah, why is it problematic? What are we essentially doing, especially in the shofar and lulav cases? You are taking a mitzvah d'oraita, and you're saying don't fulfill it because, not that you're gonna carry, you might carry. It seems a little funny to negate a biblical mitzvah because of a fear of carrying. This is a famous question, which we're not going to really address, but just realize, okay, we've got Gzeira Derabba. Maybe we don't read the Megillah because because we're afraid of carrying. However, for those of us who are not thrilled with that shita, good news, it is not the only game in town. Look what happens now. Wait, who's learning Megillah? Tony, you remember this before? Raymond.
So we don't do Tosfos.
Amar Rav Yosef Amar b'fnei she'einayim shel aniyim nesud Megillah. This is a very exciting reason for me. Totally different reason. What does he claim? It's not because of fear of carrying, it's because... So guys, what if we discovered that some of the mitzvot are linked? Mikra Megillah is linked with Matana Leviona. Meaning why? Because Megillah is a big public thing. Everybody comes out. Even if people never come to shul, make it. And it's a great time. The Aniyim are there collecting money. Great time for them. So what do we want? We don't want a Mikra Megillah experience where the poor are shut out. When would that happen? If we did it on Shabbos. So notice that according to Rav Yosef, it has nothing to do with carrying. So you have a debate already. Everyone knows Gzeir D'Rabba, they don't realize there's Rav Yosef learning there. Rav Yosef says it's not about carrying. It is about maintaining good opportunities for the poor. Now there's a Tosfos here, but I'm going to argue against this Tosfos. Skip to the second Tosfos. I'll get to you guys in 1 second. Rav Yosef and Fnei Sheneim Shalani Musul Mikumika. Al Karchach Tzarech Lomar. What do you have to say? To Rav Yosef Lo Palag Atame de Rabba. Oh, I was shaking Rav Yosef as the champion who rejects Rabba. What does he want to claim? Yosef agrees with Rabba. What do you guys think? What might motivate Tosfot to say that Rav Yosef really agrees with Rabba? What might motivate him? Yeah?
Well, we both say that you can't agree to get on Shabbat. So they agree when we...
Okay. Any other factors? Yeah?
I feel like it would be the opposite. I don't know. When I was in like learning the past couple days, I learned that when you say Amar after the name, it's disagreeing.
Okay, good. You're right in terms of the formulation, but I'm asking just about the logic of the situation. So let's read a little more, guys. Dagabi shofre velulav lekatama chrina. What's the claim, guys? What's the advantage of the Rav approach over the Rav Yosef approach? How much does the Rav approach explain? All of the above. Why don't we go shofar on Shabbat? Why don't we, what am I missing? Why don't we take a lulav on Shabbat? And why don't we read the Megillah? All covered in one. If you're like Rav Yosef, you're only explaining Megillah. Now, Batosos is making a huge assumption though, which is, if Rav Yosef's reason doesn't apply to the other two, he'd have to accept Gzeir D'Rabba. Can anyone think of just in general, you don't have to pin it down, an alternative logical possibility? Yeah, Elliot?
You could say Gzeir D'Rabba works for the other two, but not for the
Okay, good. Very good. But even more than that. What if EGS?
He doesn't think it's Gzeir D'Rabba for those.
What if there's another reason for the other two? Maybe just like Rav Yosef had an interesting reason for Megillah, maybe Rav Yosef has another reason for Lulav and Shofar, and maybe he really does not hold of Gzeir D'Rabba. Okay, this is a point we're going to come back to in a minute. Who had a hand up over there before? Who was it? That's it? Your question is no longer relevant. I have dissolved it. Okay, excellent. Okay, now you might say, Rabbi, that's really speculative, but now things are about to get very exciting. Okay, if everyone could turn please to the second side. Oh wait, no, sorry, not the second side. Did I not put it here? Oh my God, did I forget it? That would be a disaster. No, I do have that. Source 9. What if I told you that, okay, who here, besides Yoni Kidor, is anybody learning Yerushalmi this year? Any Yerushalmi students? Okay, so we don't tend to learn very much Yerushalmi. But what if I told you that the Yerushalmi has never heard of Gzeir D'Rabba? Okay, not in Shofar, not in Lulav, and not in Megillah. What does it say in Shofar? This is not on the source sheet. In Shofar it says, now somebody might know this because this is a Havamina, not a Maskan. And in a couple of my show we've been discussing like the value of a Havamina, how it could come back in other contexts. So this is a new category. It's a Havamina Bavli, but guess what? It's a Maskana in Yerushalmi. Okay, what does it say? Anyone in the fourth parak of Rosh Hashanah recently? No? No fourth parak of Rosh Hashanah people?
Max first
What?
Max first told me to see him on Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, terrific. Eastern America now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When's the Simcha? This Shabbos is Bar Mitzvah. And then the wedding is? 2 weeks. Okay. Wow, what a month. What a month for that guy. Okay, so in any case, the two psukim about Rosh Hashanah. One it's called a Yom Trua, and the other it's called not a Yom Trua, but a Zichron Trua. So it says, why is it a Yom Trua and a Zichron Trua? If it's a weekday, it's a Yom Trua because we're blowing. If it's Shabbos, we don't actually blow, we just talk about it. So it's a Zichron Trua. Now the Bavli rejects that. If we all agree, if you accept that, what emerges? It's a drasha, that's what the Torah demands. It's not some gzeira you might carry. That's simply what the mitzvah is. The mitzvah is to blow on weekdays and to say psukim or say ideas on Shabbat. Guess what? That's the Yerushalmi's conclusion. Yerushalmi just says that. That is why we don't blow shofar on Shabbat, not because of gzeira drama. So just look at source 9, guys. I'm not going to explain it. I just want to show you that Yerushalmi is in a different universe. Rav Nachman bar Yaakov boy hagat simcha shechol tedva b'liot b'Shabbat. What happens if the 15th, like this year, falls out on Shabbat? L'krot b'Megillat Esther einat yochol. You can't. Now again, guys, this is very confusing. I'm not explaining it, but just notice what the reason is. She'ein korin b'kitvei hakodesh ela min mincha l'mala. What's the problem? It has to do with somehow when they were willing to read Nach on Shabbat. For some reason, there was a restriction on public readings of Ketuvim on Shabbat, and because of that restriction, that's why they wouldn't read Megillah on Shabbat. Again, I'm not explaining that reason at all. You guys can look into it, but just notice it is not based on Gzeira D'Rabbanan. So let's just sum what we are here, guys. Why do we read Megillah on Shabbat? What's most famous in the Bible is Gzeira D'Rabbanan. So you don't care. What does Rabbi Yosef say? It's for the sake of the poor. Says Tosfos, but don't be so quick to drop Gzeira D'Rabbanan. Since Rabbi Yosef has to explain shofar and lulav, he obviously also agrees with Gzeira D'Rabbanan. But I pointed out that it does not necessarily follow. That the Yerushalmi consistently provides other explanations and not Gzeira D'Rabbanan. The bearded one.
What about the other Megillah that we like not the read on Shabbat, like Shiur and Klali?
Okay, so you have to figure out how that. Well, I will say a couple things. One is. Oh, actually, I think I have a very good answer. Which I think it works across the board. Okay, so Sephardi would have a very good answer for you. Guys, what would a Sephardi answer to the bearded one's question?
It's not night.
No, even better. Guys, guess what? Sephardim do not read Kohelet on Sukkot. Okay? And nor did they read Shiurim on Pesach. Okay. What? I'm trying to remember. Raymond?
What was the question?
Do you read Rud on Shavuot? Alright, we'll look it up.
I don't think so.
Okay, the truth is there is a minute for them to read Shiurim Friday night, but not.
I don't think we read bro.
Yeah, so.
doesn't either.
I'm sorry?
Chabad doesn't either.
Really? Interesting. Does Chabad not do Shiurim Kohelet as well?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I tell you, like, there were some Sephardi influences that made me over to Chabad. That is quite interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong, does Chabad do the Tekiyot in the private Amidah or Shishah? There you go, which is also a Sephardi thing. Adil not, it turns out that Chabad is really Sephardi. That's what emerges.
Don't they bring up a spark?
The mix.
Well, again, you could be Nusach Sephardi without taking on these other Sephardi customs. But they seem to have gone beyond it. And you guys, well, I guess I know what the answer is, I'm going to ask anyway. You eat kibbiyot on Pesach? Okay. Do you wake up all with El for slichot?
Do I wake up?
Oh, just Chabad.
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so they didn't go whole hog, right? They did hold back a little bit. Okay, yeah.
They even took some of our stuff and made it more extreme.
Like?
Like, you know, we like our rabbis, they worship theirs.
Raymond, that wasn't bad. But Raymond, who kisses their rabbi's hands?
That's why, but they took what we do, and
Okay.
like, we really like them, we just don't call them Mashiach.
This is just to be quick. I never saw Chabad kiss the rabbi's hands.
I feel like they would.
Okay. In any case, here we go. So let's go back to our source from before and just explore a little bit more Gzeira D'Rabbanan. Okay, so, because this is a very interesting question, I think you guys will all give good answers. We have Gzeira D'Rabbanan in 3 scenarios. So that means, in theory, wait, it doesn't apply elsewhere. Couldn't you make the same claim? There are a lot of nervous Jews out there. So like there's a nervous Jew who's going to check out Mikra Megillah. Maybe there's a nervous Jew who's going to check out Shofar Blog, and maybe something else. So guys, look at the first Tosfos on source 2. You have Reno Arbam B'Sharabim, Avomila B'Shabbat. Wait, Couldn't you argue that the Mo gets a little nervous and wants to check things out? So why don't we say the Mohel is going to carry his meal knife on Shabbat? Okay, does anyone give an answer? Why Gzeira D'Rabba does not apply to Brit Milah? Okay, Nathaniel. Here we go.
Is this a Orayta?
Because Milah is a Orayta. So that's great if I contrast Milah with Megillah. That is a great answer. But what about the fact that I applied Gzeira D'Rabba to Shofar and Lulav? Are you cold or just
A little bit.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
I don't know if this is true, but would you be over in Isser if you didn't do it on the 8th day?
It's not ideal. I'm not sure the word Isser is correct, but there is a mitzvah to do it on the 8th day. Yeah.
It's actually mutter to break Shabbos to do Milah.
Excellent. We'll get to that answer in 1 second. Okay, so Tov has 2 different answers, but I actually like Noam Branch's answer, and I saw it quoted, but now I can't find it in any Rishonim. It's definitely out there. I just have not located it yet. Jeremy, give me 1 second, okay? Jeremy, nice haircut. Was it
Gabe Goldstein.
Gabe Goldstein? Good advertising right here. We'll advertise on the internet. That's it. People all over Yerushalayim can now come to the old city to get it. Guys, Gabe Goldstein. Good haircuts. Okay, here we go. So, let us look at Tosfos' 2 answers. Look at the Rambam's answer. Okay, what does Tosfos say? Ein l'chota chamira shekei nichrutu alema yudgimu brito. What's his first answer, guys? It's a little bit like Nathaniel. It's just not the right difference to Rabban. It's simply Milah really has weight in Judaism. It even has more weight than Shofar and Lulav. Right? As they did that, there were 13 Brito over the Bris Milah, and therefore, because it has so much weight, it wins. Guys, if you wanted to bring some other proofs that Milah is really weighty, what else might you say? More weighty than other mitzvot I say? And someone definitely knows this. What is one of the unique things about Milah among mitzvot say? Excellent, guys. Good news for you, those who are derelict in mitzvot assays, right? The Torah does not set up punishments for not doing assay. There is no, Beit Din will not do anything to you if you don't take a lulav. Well, actually, Beit Din won't do anything in this case either. But there are 2 explicit assays that are punishments, which are, of course, Milah and Carbon Pesach. Very good. I'm going to take it. Way to go. And if you think about it, I'm not going to get to the Machshava element here, but couldn't you argue there might be conceptual connections between Milah and Carbon Pesach? Just think about it. Think about it, guys. Okay, so again, what's the first answer? Because Milah is really strong. Next, V'od gam eina damal and can avi baki desakana yesh b'davar. What's the second claim, guys? No one does a brit milah unless, and therefore, what are you not afraid of? Again, didn't we say the whole issue is someone's afraid they don't know what they're doing and they run across the street? So the Megillah reader, that might be true. The shofar blower, that might be true. What's his claim? No one does milah unless they're a professional. Well, he's not going to have a last-minute panic, so he's simply not going to violate Shabbat. So again, either milah is more powerful or milah is less of a danger. But I actually like Noam's answer, that maybe the Torah already set up a hierarchy. Because what do we say when milah and Shabbat intersect? Milah overrides Shabbat. Even though, guys, cutting off skin is a malacha. So in theory, you shouldn't have a milah on Shabbos, but milah overrides Shabbat. If milah overrides Shabbat, that sets up a dynamic where you can't limit a milah because of Shabbat factors. Okay, so some guys, we have 3 answers now. Why don't we apply Gzeira D'Rabba to milah? Either because milah is more powerful, or because we're not afraid, everybody's a bucky, or the Noam Branch's answer, which I know is in a tradition somewhere, just haven't found it yet, that the Torah already set up milah as the overrider of Shabbat, and therefore Shabbat can't get in the way of milah. Jeremy Fader.
I guess this might be a little too creative, but you could say that milah is the only one where you can actually bring the baby to where the object is, like the knife. Whereas everything else is like a kolka. It's all the kahal. You might say it's like too much. You're concerned they're going to bring the object to there.
Wait, why milah can't be that I'm going to bring the knife across the street or something? What if I get nervous? I have to
bring the baby to where the knife is.
You can't carry baby on top.
Yeah, but you can't carry the baby either.
Can you like push one stroller or not?
Okay, but I'm just curious. It's so interesting to me because Jewish life has changed so much in the modern era. Who in this room lives in a community where there's no eruv? Oh, a couple. Wait, we got 3. Elia in Los Angeles, no eruv?
In the Palisades.
Really?
Yeah.
Are there enough observant Jews there?
Not in the Palisades. It depends where you are in LA, but like the main LA, like the city.
Wow, I'm shocked. Okay, Vermont, I'm not so shocked about.
We have one, it was just put up after I left for yeshiva.
Oh, really? Okay, did the local Chabad guys put it up?
Yeah.
Okay,
And a bunch of other people.
okay, excellent.
Conservative.
Where in Boston do you live?
Needham?
Okay,
It's random path, wouldn't it?
okay, so, no, but wait, Jack, you definitely.
What is it about people?
What?
What is it about people?
Okay, so in any case, guys, it is pretty remarkable. I don't think this was true like 50 years ago. Like even the guys from Vancouver and Kansas City did not raise their hand. Okay, so I think it's interesting because in the Jewish community, you almost grow up without a sense that you can't carry on Shabbat. Like you might even have a kid who's just unaware. Because, oh yeah, I've been carrying my whole life and never really learned about this. In fact, guys, my grandfather was a rabbi in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and they did this very interesting educational thing. Once a year, they would announce the Eruv was down. Okay, now I'm gonna reveal the secret now because I was in the inner circle. It wasn't really down. Okay, but it was a way of instructing everybody that there actually is a prohibition against carrying on Shabbat. Okay, so you guys can try that at home, right? And once a year that you now. Oh, hey, even Amsterdam has an Eruv.
Yeah.
See, guys,
But
even Amsterdam has an Eruv.
but not if it freezes.
Not if it freezes. What happens there when it freezes?
Our Eruv is the water surrounding Amsterdam. So if the water freezes over, we don't have an Eruv.
Oh, that's interesting. I've heard of Eruv falling down in inclement weather. I've never heard of Eruv freezing down as well. Okay, very interesting. Okay, yeah.
In Great Neck, we've had an Eruv my whole life, and there were like two blizzards during the winter where there was no Eruv. They announced in shul that there was no Eruv, and I remember I'm like, what is the rabbi talking about?
There you go. So you're a great example. Okay, so again, I'm not against Eruv. They make life much easier. Like no babies can go out on Shabbos. But just realize that educationally, it's good for your children to know that there actually is a prohibition against carrying on Shabbat. Okay. In any case, guys, let us now move to the Suda issue. Okay, so we discussed various reasons why we don't read the Megillah on Shabbat. Now also just one other obvious thing, guys. Based on what we've seen so far, guys, where will Matan Lev take place? When will it take place? Also tonight, tomorrow, because notice we linked Matan Lev with Mikra Megillah. No, not with Shulchan Aruch. We linked it with Mikra Megillah. Right, like Rabbi Yosef? Okay, great. Let us go to the Suda. Okay, now here, guys, this is a big Yerushalmi day. I don't know why, but today's Shiur is dedicated to Yerushalmi. Because usually we follow the Bavli. What happens when the Bavli never discusses it? Sometimes there are cases where not just Yerushalmi disagrees with the Bavli, Yerushalmi takes a stand on something the Bavli never addresses. So you can, if you don't trust me, guys, you can check with Raymond and Choni, who have read all of Masechet Megillah. Okay, Raymond, you okay? You look like a little weak today.
Yeah, I'm a little tired.
Okay, makes sense. It saps your energy. Okay. Maybe making fun of Chabad is exhausting. Okay, so
There's so much to make fun about.
I'm sorry.
There's just so much to make fun about.
That was bad. Okay, but in any case, the Bavli never discusses Sudan Shabbos. It does not come up once. So in theory, if I only had Bavli, I would say, why in the world can't you do the Suda Purim on Shabbat? Yeah.
Do they talk about Mishloach
No. No. Neither one. So let us go now to the Yerushalmi though. Source 8. Sudat Rosh Chodesh v'Sudat Purim. Ma'achrin v'lo makdimin. But what's the assumption? It can't be on Shabbat. What's the only question at that point if it can't be on Shabbat? Should I put it off or earlier? In theory, I could say, let's do it on Friday. So what do we say here? We do it after. Rav Zera bo kami ravo v'yasu oto b'Shabbat. So I understand why do you have to move it at all? Just do it on Shabbos. Now the Gemara quotes a little bit of a funny drasha. Amarle lasot otam yemei mishteh v'simcha. You're supposed to make Purim a day of mishteh v'simcha. Et shesimchato tluya b'beitin. That means what kind of simcha do you have? One that humans control, the beitin controls. Which flies in the face of Shabbat, because what controls, as it were, the simcha of Shabbat? Leaving aside that Shabbat doesn't really have a mitzvah of simcha. Hashem. So the claim is somehow the Purim simcha and the Shabbos simcha don't go together. That is the claim, which is not obvious at all, but Yerushalmi has this drasha to explain why we don't do Sudat Purim on Shabbat. Okay, now two things. It not only said a drasha, it said we're ma'achrin, which is what we do. So notice we have the Suda on Sunday, and there's also going to be interesting, guys. Just like we said, Matana Lavionim is linked with Mikra Megillah. What if I say Mishloach Manot might be linked to the Suda? So then we can now you guys can give a great share in one part Mishulah, you understand. Mikra Megillah moved earlier, for reasons we discussed, and it took Matana Lavionim with it. Mishloach Manot moved later, Suda Purim moved later, and it took Mishloach Manot with it. Okay, now, why do I say Mishloach Manot? Actually, should we do Shabbos first? Let's do the Shabbos first and then get to Mishloach Manot. Okay, now there might be another factor. If I can go, please, to page 11. Because I think we'd all agree the Yerushalmi's drasha was a little odd, right? But what if what Yerushalmi's really getting at is that somehow Shabbos and Purim are different themes. They don't really go together. Now, as many people have pointed out to me, but we don't mind if Shabbos and Yom Tov overlap, right? You know, you could have Pesach Day that's also Shabbat and have a Suda that does double duty, Pesach and Shabbat, but somehow there must be with the Purim Suda why it doesn't coexist well with Shabbat. Oh, Ethan, you know, now's a good day to take advantage. Okay, we only started recording these Shiurim after the year began. So it is not recorded for posterity that Ethan ran a triathlon, right, correct? Okay, so now it is now recorded for posterity. Ethan ran a triathlon, very impressive feat. Okay, so there was an Achron known as Rav Shlomo Kluger. And Rav Shlomo Kluger has a book of Chuvot called the Elef L'cha Shlomo. And he tries to spell out, I think, a little more why Purim and Shabbat might not go together. So he says, "Kshani la'atzmi ha'yevei mitam acher, de'en la'asoto b'Shabbat, given the Suda Purim be'inan dechayav atam l'vesuvei b'Purim lo yada ben Aram ben Mordechai." Okay, what do we say about Purim? You're chayav too. What's l'vesuvei b'Purim? Get drunk. U'v'Shabbat be'inan zachar et Yom HaShabbat l'kadsho v'lo yishchenu libo. And apparently, what's the claim? Drunkenness is not the right atmosphere for a Shabbos meal. Okay, so now I think it is interesting because it would help deal with my problem. You might say if Sukkot and Shabbos overlap or Pesach and Shabbos overlap, the atmosphere of the two things are not really in conflict with each other that much. But the nature of a Pesach Suda is not very Shabbos-like. Right? It's a little wilder, maybe a little more alcohol. But like maybe you can infer from your guys you should not be getting drunk at your Shabbos lunch. Okay, that's a good inference. Okay, because otherwise there'd be no conflict. Okay, but at that point he says maybe that's what's really going on. Okay, so maybe that's really pshat in Yerushalmi's drasha. It's not just a drasha, but it's saying that the Purim Suda and the Shabbos Suda don't really overlap in terms of Tov. Okay, before we move on, guys, I have one question for all the guys who are Judas here. Okay, I understand that you have now heard Shiurim from 5 Rabbeim about drinking on Purim. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just forgot one. You heard from Ravadi. You heard from Rav Chaim. You heard from Rav Judah.
Twice.
Who's the? Oh, so it was Judah twice. And I know Rav Moshe gave a Sikah. Is there another Shiur? That was it. Which is Rav Judah twice. There's only 4 individuals, not 5 individuals.
It was give a 2-part Shiur.
Okay.
2 days.
Fine.
Plus now this is 6.
I didn't discuss with you Shiur, right?
You just mentioned it.
Okay. That doesn't count. Okay, but here's my question. Were there radical differences between the positions the 4 of them took, or they're kind of all on the same team?
Differences.
There were radical differences?
Not like too
Okay, well, I'll ask it this way, though it's not fair to do this in public, but anyway. Okay, who was the most enthusiastic with drinking? Who was the least enthusiastic?
Probably with Judah or Moish.
Or the most?
Like,
Okay, and who's least?
Moish or Ravadi.
Wait, you counted Ramesh on both sides?
No.
Separate Judah at the top.
Judah drinks the most Ravadi.
Ah, got it. No, I didn't ask how much they drink. I asked what message did they convey to you guys?
I think it's still.
Okay, wait. Since just to finish up, where was Rav Chaim in the scale? Unclear.
He was giving more of an overview, like.
He didn't take such a personal position. Okay, great. Okay, guys. So now we have why the Suda can't be in Shabbat. Again, guys, we have Yerushalmi and we have Rav Shlomo Kluger. And let's see, why do I think Mishloach Manot is connected to this? So now let's get to a beautiful Chatam Sofer. Let me go back to page 10. Again, guys, the Chatam Sofer. Wait, just Jack. Even though it's Erev Purim, no suffer jokes. Okay. Okay. So the Chatam Sofer, Rav Moshe Sofer, is very, very important. Probably the most important Hungarian rabbi of the 1800s. And even though he wrote a ton of things, he's probably most famous for his tshuva. A lot of interesting halachic tshuvot. I'll just tell you one. Sometimes people think that Chassam Sofer is the super machmer of all time. Guess what? He thought you could use umbrellas on Shabbat. Now that is not the common practice, but the Chassam Sofer has an argument why it's not a problem at all. Okay, so well, obviously, if you thought of air, it might be a carrying problem, but just the opening of an umbrella would not be a problem. Okay, in any case, let us go to source 10. Then source 10 says that Chassam Sofer, guess what? There's actually a little known machloket about Mishloach Manot, what its purpose is. Al Divrat Pri Chadash, or Chaim Siman Tafrei Sariyeh, Shepikbek al Rama. So the Pri Chadash is upset with the Rama. What the Rama say that got him upset? Shepatzu Bagash Im Shach Manot Reo, V'lo Aval Lekabel. What if I send Mishloach Manot to Gavi Spinner, and Gavi turns it down? Maybe I included too much fleishiks or whatever the case may be. Maybe Gavi thinks I'm on a rabbi's salary, I shouldn't be spending so much money. So he turns it down. Says the Rama, Yatsa Yedei Cholato. Amazing. What does he claim? I filled Mishloach, even though the recipient turned it down. That's what the Rama says. Says the Pri Chadash, that makes no sense. How could it be? When you say you fulfilled Staka, and he turns it down? Right? Hard to imagine. Yes.
Doesn't this have to do with whether the purpose of Mishloach Manos is to fulfill the Suda for someone else?
Or
whether it's, I'm forgetting the other one.
Where did you hear this Chakira?
Rajuda.
So Rajuda did teach this.
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. Sorry, I was hoping not to overlap, but here we go. That's exactly this piece. Did he teach this Chassam Sofer?
I don't think so.
Okay. So he says exactly what Micha said. V'nei re'iti b'zeh shnei ta'amim. I have seen two reasons for Mishloach Manot in my time. Okay, I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to try it anyway, guys. Maybe it'll be a per miracle. Does anyone know which Achron is this Rashi Teva? The first word on the third line. I know, we never should get it. What? Oh my God! Elliot go. Whoa, how do you know that?
We talked about this morning.
Okay. This specific Truma Deshen?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. The Truma Deshen, very good. Just one brief side of Truma Deshen, guys. This is very cool. Truma Deshen is a book of Tshuvo. Did Rav Judah teach? Did Rav David Elliot? Did Rav David tell you what's unique about it?
It's always quoted in the Shulchan Aruch.
No, what's new at the Truma Deshen is
357.
That's also true. He made up the questions, right? And we got that Moshe Feinstein. It says, Rabbi Goldberg from Queens asked me this question, right? And that's true about almost everybody's tshuvot, whether or not they list the guy. The Truma Deshen said, "Why do I have to wait for people to ask me interesting questions? I'll ask the interesting questions." Okay, as far as I know, it is the only book of tshuva where the author made up the questions. Okay, but in any case, yeah.
Rabbi Hachman at YHS's Halacha of the Day emails.
He mentioned this. Oh, he makes the questions.
I think he might. There's no way, somebody sends him
Oh, wait, said he can't send in a question. Wait, what he says, did you ever send in a question?
I've heard one of my friends sent in and he answered it, but there's no way that someone's.
God, you ever sent a question?
No,
Wait, I'm starting to suspect you, right? If you never did it, God never did it, send anything once. Unless there's some kid who's prolific with questions. Okay, fine. So there are two people in Jewish history, the Truma Deshen and Rabbi Hachman from Boca Raton. Those are the two people who have this method. Okay, so in any case, what does the Truma Deshen say? Katav shikadesh yarvacha lebalis machot ulai lo yaspik lo sudato. So this is exactly what Mika said. It's a very nice idea. When Truma Deshen, guys, for the less affluent, Purim could be any chag could be attention, right? It's for the less affluent because you want to spend a little more on your meals. So what do we decide part time? Let's send Mishloach Manot so that people have, something for the Suda. Now I realize, guys, it might be foreign to you because you're more used to getting Hershey's chocolate for your Mishloach Manot. Okay, but I always point out, guys, realize most of human history did not have so much processed sugar. Right, even I love pointing this out, guys. In the Gemara, when they want to bribe kids, what do they bribe kids with?
Nuts.
Either nuts or fish. Try that today. Oh, kids, stay for Mishmur and we'll give you some fish. Right? Herring might work. Okay, but that's because there wasn't nosh. There was no such thing. Right? I imagine Mishloach Manot also tended to be real food. So if you give somebody, a chicken dinner for Mishloach Manot, they could use that for the Suda. So again, answer number one is, what's the purpose of Mishloach Manot? To ensure that every Jew has food for the Suda. Okay, next. That's all the Truma Hadeshin. Okay, now skip down to 3 lines. You haven't seen that? Ach b'sefer Manod Halevi. Guys, Manod Halevi is Rav Shlomo Alkabetz's parish on Megillah Esther. What is Rav Shlomo Alkabetz most famous for? Yes, he composed L'chadodi. But while he was not composing L'chadodi, he wrote a parish on Esther, the Manod Halevi. What does it say there? Laharbot hashalom v'hareut. What's the purpose of Mishloach Manot? To create goodwill, a sense of fellowship in Jewish society. Why would I specifically want to do that in Purim? Hefech mirgilato shel atzar shamar mifuzar u'mifurai. Now this is debatable if he was what Haman meant, but how does Haman describe the Jewish people to Achashverosh? These people are mifuzar u'mifurad bein Hamin. What's mifuzar u'mifurad? Scattered. Now the simple pshat is it's just a geographic point. But how is Alkabetz taking it? They're not unified. They're fighting with each other. They are mifuzar and mifurad. Now that's part of the background to Purim. Obviously, what would be a tikkun, as it were? Let's do something that creates goodwill. If people said Mishloach Manot, that creates goodwill. So let's just sum it for a second and we'll get to the Nafkamina. What do we have here? 2 theories what the overriding principle or purpose of Mishloach Manot is. Trumat Hadeshen would say it's to make sure everyone has food for the Suda. And Rosh Shlomo Alkabetz would say it is to create a sense of goodwill. Wait, hang on one second, guys. 2 ramifications. Why did the Chassam Sofer quote this? He's trying to explain the Ramah. What was the Ramah's position again, guys? That even if the recipient turns it down, you're guilty. Okay, guys, everyone should get this. Think a little analytically. Does the Ramah make more sense according to the Trumat Hadeshen or according to the Manod Halevi? For sure. Excellent. You guys are good on that. Because if you do Trumat Hadeshen, the result does matter. What do we want? We want the recipient to have the food so that he could use it for the Suda. But if I'm the Manod Halevi, arguably what's the only that matters? The goodwill gesture, right? If someone is willing to send Mishloach Manot, even if I say I don't need it, he's still created Avav. So, says the Chassam Sofer, based on the Manod Halevi, I can explain the Ramah. But now let's go one step further, guys, and then I'll take questions. We're almost done here. Okay, is Mincha regular time today? You guys know? Is it 12:50?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. I'm sorry? It's at 1, not 12:50? Okay, is that because we can't daven until 1 or just?
No,
there's like
it's normal.
What's on Thursday?
Okay. I'm not sure how long I should see here. Jack, do you know if we can daven 12:50?
We can.
Yeah, we don't know if we every day.
Okay, fine. So we're not going to go to 1 and we'll get to
Mom's like 12:17.
I'm sorry?
His mom's 12:17.
Okay, excellent. So in any case, let's go back to when we said before. I said that once we have Yerushalmi and the Suda gets pushed to Sunday, Mishloach Manot gets dragged along with it. According to who does that make sense now? That actually makes sense according to the Trumat Hadeshen. Right? The Manod Halevi did not link Mishloach Manot with Suda. But since we have the Trumat Hadeshen, so just like Mikra Megillah gets drags with it Matan Levyonim, it turns out that Suda drags with it Mishloach Manot. Okay, before I summarize, anyone have a comment or question? Micha.
The Pachad Yitzchak agrees with the Manod Halevi. He has a great piece about Hasreim and how it connects to the Sudan Purim.
Okay, terrific. Although, as we point out, Rav Hudner might think this is a theme of Purim, but not necessarily that it's the reason for Mishloach Manot. Does Rav Hudner explicitly apply to Mishloach Manot? Right.
Yeah.
But again, you might say that overcoming disunity and creating brotherhood is a theme of Purim. Okay, good. Anybody else? A lot of questions. Great. Yomi Kidorf, you strong man.
Wouldn't it be more convincing to say that Mishloach Manot would go with the first 2, being that just as the Aniyim, if you're holding the side that it's for helping people make a Suda, then it would go more with the Aniyim who are waiting for all who are coming with the Megillah anyway. Whereas if you're grouping it with the Suda, then its purpose has to be more related to it being with friends.
Can you say it again? I'm sorry, I lost you.
If the reason for doing Mishloach Manot is to complete the Suda, then I feel like it would make a lot more sense if it was with the first 2 about the Aniyim, just as they're waiting for like the Matanas Avionim. So too, if like the Ikar just help other people fulfill Suda, not about like camaraderie ship, then it would go better with the first.
This might be like a lousy answer. I'm very practical. Like people bring their cash to shul, they don't bring their chicken dinners to shul. You don't like that practical answer?
Wasn't the idea more that people would go like vicinity to the Megillah, like with more like not actual?
I
shirts,
thought
like,
it was that
yeah.
everyone's together in one place, and therefore it's easier to collect more money. That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
You might have mentioned this, but why is the Suda on Friday?
Oh, that's a good question. So, I just want to point out one thing, guys. That the Meiri. One second. Now I wonder if the Meiri thought we don't have to follow the Yerushalmi. Look at the Meiri at source 12. We don't do this, but not everything we do has always been universally agreed upon. Everyone see the Meiri at source 12? You see where it says, Umikomakom yesh mefarshim, 4 lines to the bottom? Yeah? Umikom yesh mefarshim, shema'achas shemakdimin bekriyat ha-Megillah. Since Megillah has moved up, Kamo shebiarno, afei makdimin besimcha. We also move up the Mishnah. And even has a great argument at the end. And he says, even if you tell me that's not true in some scenarios, let's keep reading. Some say this is only true for a big city that should have been on the 15th. Why? So that's an interesting argument. What might you say? If it was the 14th, even though it doesn't happen. If in theory the 14th fell on Shabbat, we'd be happy to move it to Sunday. Why shouldn't we do that when the 15th falls down on Shabbat? What did he just say? Because 14th is a recognized Purim day, and 16th is not. So it's interesting. I wonder if he didn't think we had to follow Yerushalmi, or you thought that partially accept the Yerushalmi. Because again, guys, Yerushalmi had 2 things, right? Yerushalmi said, number 1, we don't read Megillah, we don't do Suda on Shabbat, and 2, we're Ma'achre. And Jack's right, Yerushalmi didn't seem to have an explicit reason why we are Ma'acher. So it says to Meiri, it's true, we don't do Suda on Shabbat, but we're actually mocked him, and what's his argument again, guys? It says, then we put it on a day that's a recognized Purim day. Gavi Spinner.
Regarding the opinion that says it's about creating unity, and if he turns away Mishloach Manot, wouldn't that not be, like, the intention was to create unity?
Look, I guess you're right. I guess we have to assume it's not so much like, I hate you, I don't want your Mishloach Manot, but I don't really need it, we have enough chocolate in the house. Right?
Fine.
Okay? Alright guys, here we go. We're now going to do a 2-minute review, just to give everybody a little time, and then we're starting up. Okay, here we go. Purim Mishulash, you now are all experts on why we do it. Why do we not read Megillah on Shabbat? So possibly, Gzeira Darabah. We're free you're going to carry. If I asked Rav Yosef, what would Rav Yosef say? Because the poor people can't count on Mikra Megillah for collecting their money. Tosfos says that Rav Yosef would have to agree with Gzeira Darabah for Shofar and Lulav. Why do we point out that's not necessarily true? Because Yerushalmi has other reasons for Shofar and Lulav. Okay, terrific, at least Shofar. Okay, next. Why do we also move Matan Levionim to Friday? Because what do we just say based on Yosef? Yom goes together with Mikra Megillah. That's the time for the Levionim to collect. Okay, so we got it. Beautiful. We all know now why those 2 mitzvot are on Friday. What is the source for not doing a Suda on Shabbat? There's a drasha in Yerushalmi. How did Rosh Shlomo Kluger explain why there's a conflict here? He says you have more wild drunkenness on Purim. That is not the right atmosphere of Shabbat. Okay, so Reb Davil's on Shabbos. You're going to have a great Shabbos, but it is not the time for wildness. Have a Shabbos atmosphere. Okay, excellent. What happened to Mishloach Manot though? Why is Mishloach Manot getting moved to Sunday? So Mishloach Manot might be connected to the Suda. But that depends on our Chakira. Famous Chakira. What is the purpose of Mishloach Manot? What's the debate, guys? Truman Adeshin says for the Suda. Manot Levi says goodwill. So it's really only linked if you don't like the Truman Adeshin. But we say it is linked, and therefore Mishloach Manot also goes with the Suda to Sunday. Last thing, guys, even though the Yerushalmi says explicitly the Suda is on Sunday, if we go to Provence in the 1200s and have a nice Purim, it's been a fun Purim with the Meiri. The Meiri was a lot of fun on Purim. Okay, you're gonna get it. Okay, but so what would Meiri tell you to do with the Suda? With the Suda. The Meiri said, don't move it to Sunday, move it to Friday. What was his argument again? At least Friday is a recognized day of Purim, unlike Sunday. I mean,
if you say that Mishloach Manot is connected to the Suda, does it mean that also the person has to accept it in order for you to fulfill the mitzvah?
Interesting. You're saying I'm kind of having it both ways because I'm following the Truman Adeshin on one idea and following the Manor Levi on the other idea. That's a good question. I mean, you do have machlokas Raman Prichadish there, but I've never been asked that as a practical question, right? So it doesn't come up that often. What? I'm gonna tell you, you want to try this here? I'll turn down your Mishloach Manot and we'll see if you're Yotze.
I'll give out more than one. So.
Okay. Oh no, forget it. I'm not turning yours down. Your Dutch cookies are too good. Yeah.
How does the Yerushalmi deal with the pasuk of Lo Yavor?
Ah, very good. Someone asked that. I think they say Lo Yavar is about Mikra Megillah, not about the other Purim mitzvah.
Also, another
Yeah,
thing.
that's a good question.
In the Megillah, it also says Zechira. So how can, if you're drunk, then how can you do Zechira? If you remember, how can you have like?
No, but that's not a question about Purim and Shabbos overlapping. It's just.
No, about Purim Mechlal. How can?
Oh, you say you're asking based on Rav Kluger.
Yeah, how can we say Adonai if you need to? If there's Zechira also.
All right, we'll leave that for another time. All right, everybody should have a very wonderful Purim Sameach.